Hello everyone, welcome back to Easy Natural English with Liam. Today I want to talk to you about how to improve your pronunciation in English. So there are 3 stages that you need to go through to really perfect your pronunciation. But the problem is many students are skipping stage 1. What is stage 1? I hear you ask. So stage 1 is listening. I know many people think, I want to improve my pronunciation, so I need to speak. Okay, that seems logical. That seems like it makes sense. If you want to get better at speaking, you need to speak, right? That seems logical, that makes sense. But actually, if you have not done enough listening practice, then you do not actually know what those sounds sound like. So many students from the beginning are trying to pronounce a word. So when I have students come to me, I've been teaching English for 6 years. Students come to me and they say, Liam, how do I pronounce this word? Let's say the word is pronunciation. And I say to them, pronunciation. And then they say their version, they try to say it, and in their mind they think, I did it, it was perfect, right? And then I say, no, it's not right. And they're like thinking, but it sounds the same as yours. And I'm sure you've had this experience. I've had this experience when I'm learning languages, like even people's names. For example, I've met people from Norway and they say their name to me, maybe their surname, and I try to repeat it and they say, no, that's not right. But to my ears, it sounds the same. I think, I said what you said. How is this wrong? So the problem is I'm not used to listening to Norwegian. I've never studied Norwegian, so I don't know these sounds clearly enough to make the sounds, to produce the sounds. So if you can't hear the sound clearly, then you're not ready to make the sound clearly. So the first stage is listening. You have to keep listening until you can clearly hear the difference. Because at the beginning of studying any language, I say at the beginning, even intermediate and advanced levels, it's hard to clearly hear the difference between those sounds. If it were your own language, even if I said it very quickly with no sentence, if it is your own language, you can clearly hear the difference. But when it's a new language, it's very difficult to hear that difference. But that will get easier if you keep listening and you keep listening. You'll find those 2 sounds that sound very similar to you, they'll start to sound more different. And when you start to reach that point, you can then better pronounce these words that you want to pronounce. So stage 1 is listening. And these stages overlap. You have to continue listening. It's not like you complete listening, you can stop. So listening should always continue throughout your language studying, okay? So keep listening. But then when you're pretty comfortable with listening and you feel like you can hear these sounds more clearly, then what you can try and do is shadowing, language shadowing. So this is stage 2, language shadowing. So language shadowing, some of you might know already, is when you listen to a recording of a native speaker and you try to copy what they are saying. So I do this in Japanese. Right now I'm studying Japanese, so I try to do this every day for about 20 minutes. Some of you might be much busier than me. It might be hard to do it every day, but if you do this as much as possible, it will really improve your pronunciation. So it's very simple. You put on some headphones. You can use your speakers, but headphones should be clearer. Put on your headphones, listen to a native speaker speaking about anything, and you copy them. And what's really important is to record yourself. Because if you just speak, you might think again like, yeah, I did it, nailed it, I did a good job. But if you record it and then you listen afterwards, you'll probably be surprised. You might hear yourself, and honestly, it's quite a painful experience. I do this in Japanese, and I hear my own Japanese pronunciation, and I think, oh no, it's not as good as I thought it was. But that's a chance to make corrections. You know, perhaps there's one word that you're saying in a strange way, and then you can concentrate on fixing that word, or perhaps putting two words together. Or there could just be some particular area that you need to work on. So yeah, listening, copying, and recording. Language shadowing, it's really powerful. So try language shadowing. But like I said earlier, this listening first has to, you have to do a lot of listening first, because if you haven't done much listening and you can't clearly hear those sounds, even if you record yourself and you listen, you might think, wow, I'm perfect. This sounds 100% like a native speaker. But if you show it to a native speaker, they'll say, yeah, you have some work to do. So first thing is to be able to clearly hear those sounds. Because if you try to language shadow from the beginning, actually you're going to fix some bad pronunciation habits. You're going to think you're copying it correctly, but you're going to be making some mistakes, and you're going to repeat those mistakes over and over again, and it's going to be hard to fix later. So important thing is lots and lots of listening first, then language shadowing, then stage 3. And like I said, the stages overlap. You continue all of them at the same time. So listening, you keep doing it. Language shadowing, you keep doing it. But when you've been doing those for a while, then you can try stage 3. Stage 3 is recording yourself without the shadowing. So in stage 2, I said listen, copy, and record. Stage 3 is just freestyle speaking. So now you're not copying a native speaker. You can think of an interesting topic. You can think of like, what do I think about climate change? About global warming. I mean, this would be a very advanced topic. And you can just talk into a device that you can record with, maybe just for 1 or 2 minutes, and then listen to yourself afterwards and try to see how close does this sound to a native speaker. And so an important thing that actually I forgot to mention with the language shadowing is it's also good to think about what kind of native speaker you want to sound like. So do you want to have a British pronunciation, American pronunciation, Australian pronunciation, Canadian, or somewhere else? Many different types of English pronunciation. It's probably best to choose one. When it comes to listening, you can listen to anything because it's important to understand all the different accents. But when you're copying, it's probably best just to choose one and try to copy that. And then, if you're a guy, if you're a man who's like 50 years old, you probably want to copy another man who is about 50 years old. You don't want to, if you're a 50-year-old man, you don't want to be copying a 15-year-old girl because her speaking style is not going to match your sort of appearance. So it's best to copy someone who's kind of has a similar personality to you and has the kind of English that you want to speak. And then when you have that person, you can kind of copy them as much as possible. And then later, when you get to stage 3, record yourself and then see, does this sound like what I was aiming for? Does this sound like an American accent? Or does this sound like a British accent? Does this sound like what you were aiming for? And then another thing you can do to check your pronunciation is use apps like Siri on Apple, or what's the other one called? Alexa through Google. So with these apps, you can ask them questions and they kind of search it for you. You can set your device to English and see if it can understand your questions. So this can be quite difficult, but then you'll know if the device can't understand you, then your pronunciation is not clear enough or it's not correct enough. And another way you can do that is with Google Translate. If you get the Google Translate app, you can try saying a word or a sentence to Google Translate and see if it can actually hear you clearly. So yeah, those are some ways to work on the output part. And then of course you can also try speaking to a teacher like me. I teach on italki. If you'd like to take a lesson with me, check the link in the description of the YouTube or in the description of the YouTube video or in the description of the podcast. Come and take a lesson with me and then I can help you and give you some pointers about what you need to do to improve your pronunciation. But I really want to stress the important thing is listening, and raising your knowledge of the sound of English. Because if you don't have that, it doesn't matter how much you speak, you won't be able to improve your accent. So keep listening. Yeah, keep listening to Easy Natural English with Liam and anything else that's in English. And yeah, just keep it up. Anyway, thank you all for listening today. If you're on YouTube, please like, subscribe, comment. If you're on the podcast, please review. Everyone share with your friends, and I'll see you all back here next time.